Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augment Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy.
Alright everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I'm your host as usual, and obviously welcome back to the show. Today's episode 237 of the show, and before we get started, we're just going to do a little bit of house cleaning quick, because, well, it only makes sense that we do it, so let's just get on with the house cleaning. I do want to say thank you guys for coming back and listening. It does mean a lot to me. You guys constantly take time in your days to download these episodes, to share these episodes, to constantly keep letting me know how you feel, whether you like my stupid face or not. At the end of the day, it's greatly appreciated, and I greatly appreciate you. And also, Patreon backers, thank you as well for your support, because if you want to become a Patreon backer, you can obviously click the link down below and get early access to the episodes. It's only like $2 a month or something like that. But let's address the elephant in the room. Yeah, this episode's coming out on Friday again, and definitely a lot of good reasons for that. And it's kind of ironic that the topic of today's episode is addressing some of those things too. And so let's talk about it. I'm going to be honest with you guys. It's easy for me to just come up here, talk about tech news or things in business or video game industry, stuff like that. Because trust me, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Like, we can talk about God of War coming up. We can talk about Pokemon coming up. We can talk about the new RDNA 3 graphics cards that were just shown off, the 7900 and the 7900 XTX. We can talk about those. We can talk about performance. But I want to talk about something else. And I want this one to be a real talk today. And we're going to be talking about stress and anxiety, because I'll be honest with you guys, it's definitely been a lot harder recently for me. If you guys are aware, for people that have been following the show for a long period of time, you guys would know that I started the show in 2019. So this would mean the spring of my freshman year of college. And, you know, a lot of stuff has changed. I'm clearly not a freshman anymore. I'm a senior going into his final semester. And, you know, I've seen a lot of stuff while being here, if I'm just being honest with you. I would literally graduate. I'm going to graduate on August 5th. Of 2023. That would mark 8 years of being here at school. Or 5 years, my bad. 8 years. Whew. Yeah, 5 years. Marks 5 years of being here. So 2018, 2023, 5 years. We do the math. And my mind has changed on a lot of things, if I'm being honest with you. And along with some of that stuff, yeah, I've noticed that I become a little bit more stressed, become a little bit more anxious, because let's be real, the world's kind of a weird place now. And I've always framed it like this. I'm letting you guys into a little bit of my mind, which that's kind of the whole point of the real talks, is like talking about these real things, where I've been kind of dealing with a little bit of this culture shock of life after college. I've always heard it said to me, and I've always had conversations with people about it, where it's a little bit of a culture shock when a student or a person is used to the academia, they're used to being in a school environment their entire life, whether it be, you know, bachelor's degree, master's degree, PhDs. They're so used to the academic lifestyle of its structure, of, you know, just the consistent things to do. And then you take it all away. And it's almost like you don't know what to do anymore. Like, you literally don't have an idea of what to do. There's no more structure. There's no more, well, instructions. It's more of, you know, you get to decide what you want to do. Do you want to just stay at home, chill, do nothing for the rest of your life? Do you want to go work a 9 to 5? Do you want to start your own business? Like, you have options. Like, that's the whole point, is that you get freedom, quote unquote. You get freedom. You get to experience new things that's outside of the classroom environment. But then there's a lot of responsibilities that come with that. There's a lot of realities that will hit you hard in the face. And depending on who you are, you'll probably take it really well, or it'll affect you heavily. And for me, if I'm being honest, like, yeah, it's been on my mind. I'm someone who naturally likes to overthink everything. I like to look into things a lot. And I'll be honest, that culture shock, it's kind of hitting hard. Like, my mindset has always been, I don't want to be a college grad that doesn't have a job after college. And to me, it's one of those things where that, I wouldn't say fear, but it's that possibility is what worried me heavily. It's that possibility that stressed me out to like the nth degree. And trust me, there's a whole lot of other stuff I'm stressed and anxious about. The school stuff, that's just a fraction of it. That's literally just like a portion, because let's be real, it's the current reality. Because, hey, Josh, like, you know, me talking to myself, you know, I'm like, hey, bucko, you got a semester, you got a couple months, you got to figure out where we're going to go, because you didn't just give up 5 years of your life for nothing. You didn't just give away 5 years of not being with your family, of being with your friends, missing a lot of important moments, not being there for a lot of things. Like, you didn't just give all of that up for nothing, right? And I'm thankful and I'm grateful that, hey, I do have something lined up for after college. So I'm very grateful that, you know, for my personal beliefs, that my Heavenly Father has provided. But that doesn't take from the fact that it's like, hey, now we got to finish. And it doesn't mean that, hey, even if you have the job lined up and things like that, that doesn't mean life isn't going to be stressful. That means, hey, this is your new life going forward, is working. Until, like, you know, depending on how much income you make and stuff like that, you can go retire and, you know, do your own stuff. But it's one of those things where it's always on the back of my mind. Like, I'm anxious about, like, what's next? Like, what is life going to hold for me next? And if anything, that's actually kind of a smooth transition into the other thing that's been causing me a lot of stuff, and it's the whole relationship stuff. And we've talked about relationships here on the show multiple times. And I'm also noticing, because I see in the corner of my eye, you see, you know, a new addition to the family who's been helping me out with a lot of my stress and my anxiety. You guys will probably get to meet him eventually on camera. Right now, he's actually very quiet so far. But a lot of the relationship stuff has been getting to me more and more. Like, yeah, I'll be honest with you guys. It does kind of stink when you get to watch all your friends get married, talk about their long-term relationships, about to get married, already married, having kids. It gets to you. Like, and some people could say, well, it shouldn't. I'm like, well, that's not how that works. Like, yes, obviously you're happy for your friends. Why wouldn't you be? You know, like, it's a big milestone. It's a big thing. Like, it's something that they get to experience life with another person, and it's a very beautiful thing. That doesn't mean that it can't affect you. Like, hey, like, who wouldn't want that? Like, who doesn't want something like that? Like, someone who loves you unconditionally, that chooses you for you. Like, and we're not going by the whole Hollywood standards, because trust me, we'll rip that a new one in another episode. But it does make me anxious, because it's like, well, when's my turn, you know? Like, when do I get to experience some of this stuff? And it's kind of rough, if I'm being honest with you. It has bothered me heavily for, like, I say bother in a bad way, but it's definitely affected me. It's definitely been on my mind. It's something I think about. And some people have told me multiple things like, hey, Josh, in college, you probably might not find it here, but let's just be honest here. College ain't necessarily the best for that, because you also go to a school where flings are kind of a very popular thing. It's like, yeah, I get that. I think in many ways, I think this is part of the things where it's like, you know, maybe the transition outside of college will make a lot of this easier. Maybe, who knows? Some people say you become a little bit more attractive when, you know, you got a little bit of money to your name. And that's a whole other thing too, because let's be real, money's kind of tight as a college kid, because in my case, I don't really have another job. I don't get to work another job because of my job on campus. That's just the realities of it. And, I'm not gonna lie, I've been kind of stressed about money sometimes. Like, that's expected, especially in the current environment. Let's be real, inflation's high. People are still trying to recover after the pandemic and things like that. Like, some people don't even have jobs. Some people had health conditions that spurred up during the pandemic. So obviously now they aren't able to go back to work and things like that. So it's like, when I think about all of this stuff, stress, anxiety, no one's immune to it, guys. I know there's gonna be some people that are like, yeah, man, I never get stressed. I'm never anxious about everything. Yeah, you're kind of lying to yourself, bud. Like, it's natural. It's a natural reaction for everybody because as people, we don't like the uncertain. That's just the cold, hard facts of the matter. It's as people, we genuinely don't like uncertainty. We always like knowing what's going on at all times. And when we don't have that, we're confused. It causes us to be stressed. It causes us to be anxious. It causes us to be on edge, if you want to call it that. Like, it's part of that natural reaction of things of when you don't have control. And that's just the reality is in this case, like, hey, like, I can only control the choices that I make. I've said this multiple times. Like, you genuinely don't control anything of your life except the choices you make. Outside of the choices you make, you literally control nothing. You don't control when the sun goes up, the sun goes down. You don't control when a meteorite can come out of the sky or not. You can't control when a traffic light changes. Like, all the, traffic light. You can't control when a tornado shows up and things like that. Like, a traffic light, you kind of can, but that's a whole, that can lead into a whole other debate. But the point still stands is that as people, it kind of seems natural that we're going to be stressed and anxious. Doesn't mean it's a good thing. It just means this is what happens. Because there's a lot of reasons for people to be stressed. People can be stressed about work. They can be stressed about their family. They can be stressed about their friends. They can be stressed about their jobs. They can be stressed about school. They can be stressed about, how they can feed their dog. There's a whole bunch of reasons that people can be stressed, if I'm being honest with you. And it's just, how do we handle that? And in many ways, I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you and, preach to the choir and tell you how to properly deal with your stress and your anxiety, because I personally know I can't do that. It's just, I know I can't because I don't know your situation. However, that doesn't mean that we can't have conversations about it, because for me, part of some of that stress and anxiety, that's one of the reasons why I got my ESA. Like, he's right here at my feet right now because, trying to get my attention. But it's part of the reasons why I got him. It's to help me express some of those feelings that I've been wanting to express for a long period of time. It's allowing me a way to, have someone that loves you unconditionally because they always rely on you, And in many ways it's helped. He has helped. But I think another good way for me to express a lot of that stress, a lot of that anxiety has been through working out, or even just going for my long walks. Cause I'm someone that likes to go on 5-mile walks whenever I can, almost every morning or at least throughout the day. I'll go for a 5-mile walk. Or for people that know and follow me when I talk about my fitness journey, that's something about me that I like to work out a lot. I like to at least work out 2 hours a day, including the walk. And you include the walk, it's 3 hours a day. Obviously shorter than my normal routine because I used to do 4 hours a day when I was losing all my weight. Now my body's pretty much comfortable with the weight that I'm at. But working out has been that way, and specifically running. Running has been my way of expressing, or I'd say getting a lot of that stress off my mind, it's my way of just letting it all out, just not caring in the world, not focusing on anything around me, just the video or the music that I'm listening to and running and meeting my goal. That's all that's on my mind when I'm doing my runs. And it does help. Whenever I'm extremely stressed or I feel really tense, I just go for a run. Just to relax, clear my head. And it's helped me personally. I think another thing that I've also been doing to help with a lot of the stress and a lot of this anxiety is reading more books. Personally, I've been reading a lot of audiobooks. I've been posting pictures on my social medias about some of the books that I've been reading, and a lot of them have been really good, whether it be books like Outdated, to books like Necessary Endings, to books like, some business books from like CEOs or former CEOs. And a lot of these things put things in a perspective, because I've always believed that everyone always has a unique perspective, because we're all special, we're all different. None of us are going to think things the same way. There can be some overlaps in sharing of thoughts, but I've always believed that everyone can provide a unique perspective on something. And it's very interesting listening to a lot of these perspectives while reading books, or in this case, I'm listening to them. But the point of all of this is, yes, it's okay to be stressed here and there. It's okay to be anxious, because let's be real, we don't control anything, buckos. Like, I don't know how many times I can repeat that. We genuinely don't control anything. Like, all of this stuff is out of our hands. The only things we can control are the choices that we make, because the circumstances around us, they can happen just cause. And I know that sounds really, poo-poo, but it's just the reality. You can't control when you get fired. Like, you can control the circumstances, like, the choices you make to lead up to it, but they just want to fire you just cause they can. If your teacher wants to give you a B, they could. Like, if they want to be a stiff grader, they can be a stiff grader. Like, it's not about, I put it like this. It's not about trying to suppress or pretend that you're not stressed or you're not anxious. I think the real thing that we should be doing is learning how to manage them in a more healthy and effective way. That's really what we should be doing. And yes, let's be honest here. Some people tend to choose maybe some choices that are not the best, like maybe smoking, drinking, partying, sex, Let's just be honest here. These are just realities. Like, it just all comes down to your coping mechanisms and, choosing healthier alternatives than, say, choices that will not lead you down a good direction, to say the least. But I know for me, I'm just being honest. I've been pretty stressed. I've been pretty anxious, because it's like, I don't know what life's going to look like after college. I really don't. Even now, I still don't. But I think that's kind of one thing that I've been learning more and more is, and for my personal beliefs and everything, is like this whole idea of, learning to truly trust God, that if we believe, in our personal beliefs and things like that, that it's in, they talk about it in the Bible a little bit, where if it's like a question where they ask you, it's like, if your heavenly Father can give the birds the food that they eat, do you not think he can take care of you? And it's over this idea of like, if the God of the universe can actively meet the needs of every animal on the planet, do you genuinely not think he will meet your needs about someone he deeply cares about and that he's always actively paying attention to? And it does put some things in perspective, if I'm being honest with you. In many ways, yeah, I know I'll be okay. And this little bugger, I know he'll be okay too. Just being honest with you guys. Like, eventually, you'll probably see him fully on camera in all his little cuteness. But life is always going to be weird, if I'm being honest with you guys. Life is going to have its challenges, it's going to have its obstacles. It just comes down to, how do you approach them? What kind of mindset do you have? And really, that's kind of what matters in this case, is the mindset that you have going about dealing with your stress and your anxiety. It's like, what's your mindset? Are you, having your mindset on maybe better days ahead? Or are you kind of stuck in the gutter right now, And in many ways, that's just the reality of it, But I wanted to do a real talk this week, because this is something that's been on my mind for a while, and I wanted to share some of these thoughts and, just talk about some of this stuff, because that's the whole point of the real talks. It's more of a, unscripted, more of, real. I always try to be as authentic as I can, because that's just naturally how I am, is I'm just going to tell you how I feel and how I think about things. But the real talks have always been the way that we get to have these conversations about more serious topics, things that people feel like we shouldn't talk about because they're so taboo, or, oh, we just can't talk about that. And it's like, why not? There are things that affect us on an everyday basis. Why can't we talk about it? And to be honest, these have been very helpful. They've been very helpful for a lot of people. They've been very helpful for me, just really allowing me to express how I feel about some of these things. You know, we've talked about depression. We've talked about, you know, stress and anxiety. Talked about suicide. We talked about relationships. We talked about, you know, losing people that you care about. So many things. And I really hope that you guys enjoy this episode, and I hope this was helpful for some people. Maybe me talking about some of my experiences are relatable, and, you know, maybe some of the things that I've been doing to help deal with some of this stuff, maybe it's something you can try. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And I hope you guys continue to have yourselves a wonderful week and weekend. I know that we're obviously, you know, it's Friday, so we're coming on the weekend. So I hope you guys are safe. Don't do anything dumb, guys. I know, obviously, Thanksgiving is coming up, and obviously, you know, Christmas is coming up, you know, one of the big holidays. And as I mentioned before, yeah, a lot of stuff has been happening in the tech and video game space. You know, one of the biggest games of the year is coming out next week. Obviously, the Pokemon game is coming out. That game is going to sell well either way. I'm excited for it. We obviously have, what's it called? You know, new graphics cards coming out. So, yeah. It's definitely an interesting time right now, guys. But I hope you guys enjoy this episode. I hope it was helpful. And I hope you guys know that I love you guys to death. And thank you guys so much for your support. I really, really do appreciate it. And I will see you guys next week. Bye, guys.
Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.